The maid took her daughter to work on Christmas Eve, and the millionaire's gesture surprised everyone. Christmas Eve. Seattle glowed like a living painting. Golden and red lights shimmered over the wet snow and mist, Seattle's winter rain mixing with flurries of white, blending with the hum of music and laughter pouring out from warm windows. People hugged in the streets, exchanged gifts, wished each other joy. But in a crumbling apartment block on the outskirts of Seattle, Washington, one woman sat silently by the window, holding an old phone as if waiting for a miracle. Emma, 35, a night shift cleaner, lived there with her 6-year-old daughter. The wall clock struck 7, 1 hour before her shift began, and yet she hadn't moved. The phone call she'd just ended still echoed in her mind, the trembling voice of her elderly neighbor, Mrs. Johnson. "Emma, my dear, forgive me. My sister just had a stroke. They called me to the hospital. I can't stay with little Lily tonight." Emma had forced a calm reply. "Go, please. She needs you more. Don't worry about us." But as the line went dead, silence filled the room. The ticking clock grew unbearably loud. Emma leaned against the wall, feeling the weight of the world press down. The daycare was closed for the holidays, friends gone, no family to call. And if she missed tonight's shift, she'd be fired for sure. Last month, she'd already been warned after missing 2 days when Lily was sick. There wouldn't be a third chance. She paced the tiny kitchen, heart pounding. On the table lay unpaid bills, a shut-off notice, a near-empty wallet. Then her eyes fell on Lily, sitting cross-legged on the floor, softly singing a Christmas song, clutching her worn-out teddy bear. Her little legs swung back and forth. Her face glowed in the weak yellow light. The sight pierced Emma's heart. "My little girl," she whispered under her breath. "What am I going to do?" Lily looked up, blinking. "Did you say something, Mommy?" Emma smiled quickly, hiding the fear in her eyes. "No, sweetheart. I was just thinking about what we'll eat when I get home." She knew the truth. The fridge was nearly empty, only a bowl of cold rice and half an onion left. The minute hand crept forward, cruelly fast. If she stayed, she'd be late. If she left, her child would be alone. She closed her eyes, inhaled deeply, and then an idea, wild but necessary, flickered in her mind. She turned toward her daughter. "Lily, tonight, you're coming with me." "Really, Mommy? To your work?" The little girl gasped. "Yes, but you have to promise no noise, no running, and stay close to me. Always." Lily nodded eagerly, eyes sparkling. "I promise. I'll be good." Emma's lips curved into a fragile smile. She pulled out Lily's favorite red dress, the one she'd found at a Goodwill for $10 last Christmas. It was old, but to Lily, it was a princess dress. Emma brushed her daughter's hair, tied a white ribbon, then packed her small pink backpack, a few crayons, a coloring book, and that beloved teddy bear. She slipped on her worn coat, checked her bag, papers, keys, ID badge, 7:30, time to go. "Come on, Lily," she said softly, taking her daughter's tiny hand. "Tonight, we work together." The child squeezed her mother's fingers, smiling bravely. When the apartment door closed behind them, the hallway filled with the whisper of cold air and distant church bells. Emma paused at the stairwell, staring down at the dim street below. Fear twisted inside her, but her eyes held steady. She didn't know what awaited her out there, only that she would protect her daughter, no matter the cost. And that night, beneath the glitter of Christmas lights, a mother's desperate choice would begin a story that would change their lives forever. The stairwell of the old building was dim and cracked, the yellow light flickering weakly against peeling walls. Each of Emma's steps echoed softly in the quiet, mixed with the whistle of cold wind slipping through broken windows. Lily clung tightly to her hand, eyes wide, half curious, half afraid. When they stepped out onto the street, the world transformed. Christmas lights everywhere, dazzling and loud, as if they had walked into another universe. On the sidewalks, strings of colors blinked in windows. The air smelled of pastries and hot chocolate. Families in thick coats laughed, carrying huge gift bags. A group of children in Santa hats ran by, shouting joyfully. Emma watched them and smiled faintly, though her chest ached. Inside her coat pocket were all the coins she had left, $28 and some coins. She squeezed her daughter's hand, trying to hide her worry. "Are you cold, sweetheart?" "No, Mommy. I'm okay," the little girl said softly, with that small, brave voice. Emma brushed a lock of hair from her face and quickened her pace. The last night bus toward downtown Seattle would leave any minute. Missing it meant losing her job. The wind grew stronger, carrying the distant echo of the faint sound of Christmas carols from St. Mark's Cathedral. Under the pale street lights, their shadows stretched long across the wet snow. Every breath turned into a faint mist. Around them, laughter and music floated through the air. Merry Christmas! Bright, distant, and cruel in its joy. At the bus stop, they joined a line of tired workers, men with shopping bags, a drunk mumbling carols. When the old bus arrived, it was packed and smelled of fuel and damp clothes. Emma lifted Lily into her arms, pushing through the crowd, finding a narrow space near the door. She paid the fare, her last note leaving her fingers like a sigh. The bus rumbled forward. Outside, streetlights slid by in streaks of gold. Lily rested her head on her mother's shoulder, clutching her stuffed bear. Her gaze wandered to the window, mesmerized by the glowing city. "Mommy," she whispered, "why don't we have lights like that at home?" Emma smiled, her eyes soft with sadness. "Because our lights are smaller, baby, but they still shine, don't they?" Lily nodded and yawned. Within minutes, she was asleep, breathing softly. Emma looked down at her, heart tightening. Around them, passengers chatted about dinner parties and presents, laughter spilling like warmth she could never touch. It felt like listening to another world, one that didn't belong to her. She leaned her head against the cold window, the glass fogged with her breath. Her mind drifted to the hours ahead, the long corridors, the smell of disinfectant, the sting of bleach on her hands. But then she looked at the small face sleeping in her lap, peaceful and innocent, and all the fear softened into quiet determination. After 40 minutes, the bus hissed to a stop downtown. Emma gently woke her daughter. "Wake up, Lily. We're here." The little girl rubbed her eyes, grabbed her teddy bear, and followed her mother off the bus. The city center glittered. Skyscrapers gleamed in gold, windows dressed with Christmas wreaths. Lily gasped, amazed. "Mommy, it's so beautiful here." Emma smiled gently. "It is, sweetheart, but remember, you must stay close to me tonight. Promise?" "I promise, Mommy." Hand in hand, they crossed the wide street, their breath misting in the cold air. Ahead of them rose a tall glass building, 20 stories of steel and light. Emma's workplace. Her stomach tightened as she stared up at it. If anyone saw the child, she could lose everything, but fear was a luxury she couldn't afford. She tightened her grip on Lily's hand. "Come on, baby. We're almost there." Her voice was calm, but her heart beat with silent prayer that this night somehow would pass without disaster. The cold wind bit their faces as they crossed the street. Cars swept by, their headlights glimmering against the wet pavement. Emma tightened her grip on her daughter's hand. Ahead, the building loomed tall, 20 stories of glass and steel reflecting the starry sky. In the heart of the city, it stood like a fortress of another world, a world of power, wealth, and people Emma would never belong to. She swallowed hard, took a breath. "All right, Lily, let's go in." The little girl tilted her head back, staring up at the towering structure. Mommy, it's so big. Emma forced a smile. Yes, it is. But remember, no talking to anyone, okay? Stay close to me. They stepped through the revolving glass door. Warm air rushed in, and for a moment, it almost felt comforting. The marble floor gleamed, mirroring the golden light of the chandelier above. Leather sofas, tall indoor plants, a polished reception desk, everything immaculate, silent. This was the place Emma entered every night quietly, head down, her blue uniform blending into the stillness of luxury. Behind the security desk sat Mr. Anthony, the night guard, a sturdy man in his 50s, tired eyes but a kind face. When he noticed Emma walking in with a small child, his brow furrowed. "Emma, who's this?" Emma's hand tightened around her daughter's. "My daughter, Lily. I'm sorry, Mr. Anthony. Mrs. Johnson couldn't watch her tonight. I had no one else. Please, I'll keep her close. She won't disturb anyone." The man sighed, his voice low. "You know the rules, Emma? No kids in the building." "I know," her voice trembled. "But if I don't show up tonight, they'll fire me. They already warned me once. I just need this job." For a moment he said nothing. Then he looked at Lily, the small girl half hiding behind her mother's leg, clutching a worn teddy bear. Her wide dark eyes watched him nervously. He let out a heavy sigh. "Fine, but be careful. If anyone finds out, I can't help you. You understand?" Emma nodded quickly, her voice breaking. "Thank you, Mr. Anthony. Really? Thank you." "Go," he muttered gently. "Take the service elevator, and keep that little one close." "I will," she whispered. They moved toward the back corridor where the old service elevator waited, its metal doors scratched and dull. Emma pressed the button. The machine groaned, then opened with a jolt. Inside smelled of rust and cleaning fluid. She stepped in, holding Lily's hand. The doors clanged shut, and the elevator began its slow, shuddering climb. Lily's fingers tightened. "Mommy, it's loud. It's scary." Emma smiled softly. "I know, baby, but I'm right here." The lights flickered overhead. Metal rattled against metal. They stood in silence, hearts beating in rhythm with the groaning cables. When the doors opened, the 15th floor was pitch dark. Motion lights flicked on one by one as they stepped out, casting long shadows along the corridor. Frosted glass walls, silent offices, polished floors that echoed every step. The air was cold and sterile. Lily whispered, "It's so quiet, Mommy." Emma bent down, kissing her forehead. "It's always like this at night. Don't be scared. Just stay close." She pushed the cleaning cart out from its corner. Bottles of disinfectant, rags, a mop, a bucket. The familiar smell of bleach filled the air. She started with the first office, flicking on the lights. Desks neatly lined up, computers dark, chairs perfectly arranged. Empty, silent. "Sit here, sweetheart." Emma pulled out a chair near the door. "You can color while I work, okay?" Lily nodded, pulling out her small coloring book and box of pencils. Her tongue peeked out in concentration as she drew, humming softly. Emma watched her for a second, her chest tightening with tenderness, then turned back to work. She swept, wiped, emptied bins, straightened chairs. Every few minutes she glanced at her daughter just to make sure she was still there, safe. While Emma worked quietly on the 15th floor, the only light still burning high above the city belonged to Daniel Brooks. His office, the top floor, the corner of glass and steel, gleamed against the night like a solitary beacon. 40 years old, CEO of one of Seattle's leading technology firms, Daniel was the kind of man people admired from a distance. Successful, powerful, respected, and utterly alone. He sat behind a massive walnut desk, the glow of his computer screen washing over his face. Lines of numbers and charts filled the monitor. His fingers tapped steadily against the keys, the sound hollow in the vast room. Behind him, floor-to-ceiling windows reflected the ocean of city lights below. Seattle, Washington, glittering like a field of fallen stars. Awards, framed certificates, and photos lined the walls. Handshakes with ministers, magazine covers, speeches at grand openings. To anyone else, this was the portrait of triumph. But to Daniel, it was a mausoleum of everything that no longer mattered. On his desk sat a single framed photograph. A young woman with long hair held a little girl who looked just like her, both laughing. Camilla and Sophia, wife and daughter, the only family he'd ever had. He stared at the photo for a long moment, eyes distant, then turned it face down. 3 years earlier, on a January afternoon, everything had ended. A drunk driver ran a red light. The impact crushed their car on the way home from a holiday trip. Camilla died instantly. 5-year-old Sophia didn't survive the ambulance ride. Daniel left the hospital with a few broken ribs and a soul that never healed. He remembered it all too clearly: the screech of tires, the smell of gasoline, Camilla's scream, Sophia's tiny hand slipping from his. Every night since, the memory returned, cruel and relentless. He buried himself in work, in endless hours and meaningless meetings, trying to drown the silence. But no matter how much he worked, the emptiness always found him. For Daniel, Christmas had become a wound that never closed. Each year he stayed in the office, avoiding the echo of laughter that no longer existed. The holidays were not celebration, but punishment, a reminder of the love he lost and the man he no longer was. He leaned back in his chair, rubbing his temples. The reflection of the city glimmered in his tired eyes. Down below, life sparkled, people dining, embracing, singing in the streets. And here he was, surrounded by glass, wealth, and silence. "Merry Christmas," he muttered bitterly to himself. The words tasted hollow. He closed his laptop, exhaled, and suddenly remembered a stack of documents he'd left on the 15th floor, contracts that needed his signature by morning. He stood, grabbed his jacket, and headed toward the elevator. The doors opened with a metallic chime. His reflection shimmered in the cold steel. Sharp suit, pale face, eyes hollow. He pressed the button for floor 15. The elevator hummed and began to descend. Daniel didn't know it yet, but as the numbers on the panel blinked downward, he was moving toward something far greater than another contract, toward a chance encounter that would change the course of his life forever. The elevator chimed softly, breaking the quiet. The doors slid open to the dim light of the 15th floor. Daniel stepped out, his tie loosened, exhaustion shadowing his eyes. He was just coming down to grab a few papers he'd forgotten, nothing more. But then, halfway down the hall, he heard it. A small voice, a child's laughter, and the faint rhythmic sound of a mop on the floor. He frowned. "Who's here at this hour?" The voice came again, a woman's now, soft and warm, like a melody in the still air. He followed the sound, stopping by a door left slightly ajar. Light spilled through the crack, and when he looked inside, he froze. A woman in a blue uniform was mopping the floor, her back slightly bent. Her hair was tied in a messy bun, strands clinging to her cheeks. Near the door sat a little girl, maybe 6 years old, legs swinging, coloring with a box of worn pencils. Beside her, a stuffed bear with one ear flopped down. "Look, Mommy," the girl said brightly. "It's you, me, and Mr. Teddy." The woman turned, smiled, and knelt beside her daughter. "Let me see." The drawing was messy, full of uneven lines and wild colors, but it radiated love. Emma chuckled softly. "It's beautiful, sweetheart. I'm going to keep this forever." "Forever?" the girl asked, eyes wide. "Yes, forever," Emma said, her voice trembling slightly. "Because it's the most beautiful thing in the world." Daniel stood frozen at the door. The sight hit him like a punch to the chest. It was too familiar, too close to what he'd lost. Camilla, his wife, sitting on the floor with Sophia, drawing together under the glow of their living room lamp. The memory ripped through him like glass. He blinked hard, trying to steady himself, and accidentally brushed his hand against the door. It creaked loudly. Emma spun around. When she saw who was standing there, her eyes went wide. "Oh my God, Mr. Brooks." She dropped the mop, voice trembling. "Please, sir, please don't fire me. I know it's against the rules, but there was no one to watch her tonight. I didn't have a choice. She's quiet, I promise. She's just sitting here, drawing." Her words tumbled out in panic. The little girl clutched her teddy bear tighter, looking up at the tall man in silence. Emma instinctively moved closer, placing herself between them. "If someone has to take the blame, let it be me. Just don't take my job." Daniel raised his hand slightly, his tone calm. "Hey, it's okay. I'm not going to fire you." Emma blinked, uncertain. "You're not?" He shook his head. "No, I just heard voices. I came to check. I didn't realize this was what your nights looked like." Her shoulders sank with relief. "I didn't have any other option. If I missed another shift, they'd let me go." Daniel nodded slowly, eyes softening. He turned to the girl. "And what's your name, sweetheart?" "Lily," she whispered. He smiled faintly. "That's a beautiful name. It reminds me of my daughter." For a second, no one spoke. The air felt heavy, yet strangely warm. Emma glanced at him and saw it, a loneliness in his eyes that mirrored her own. Daniel looked at the two of them, the weary mother, the small girl with her teddy bear. And something inside him stirred, a warmth he hadn't felt in years. For the first time in a long time, his heart remembered what it meant to care. 2 days after Christmas, the sky was unusually clear. A soft breeze swept through the narrow street where Emma lived with her daughter. She looked down at the business card Daniel had given her. The handwritten number on the back had been running through her mind for days. Her hands trembled slightly as she dialed. After a single ring, his voice came through, calm and warm. "Emma, I've been waiting for your call." "Mr. Brooks, I don't even know what to say except thank you." "Don't thank me," he replied gently. "Just come to my office this afternoon and bring Lily with you." That afternoon, they walked through the building's main entrance for the first time. Emma wore a simple white blouse, her hair tied neatly, while Lily's blue dress fluttered as she skipped beside her, eyes bright with excitement. When the elevator doors opened, Daniel's secretary was waiting to guide them in. Daniel stood by the window, bathed in soft daylight. When he turned, his smile was calm and genuine. "Good to see you both." He crouched down to Lily's level. "So this must be our little artist." He handed her a small wrapped box. Lily tore it open and gasped. Inside was a full set of professional coloring supplies, pencils, markers, and paints in every shade imaginable. "For you," he said. "Your drawings deserve real colors." "Thank you, sir," she exclaimed, beaming. When the secretary led Lily to the playroom next door, Daniel gestured for Emma to sit. "I have an offer for you," he began. "I'd like to hire you directly, not as a cleaner, but as head of maintenance and facilities. It comes with triple your current salary, full benefits, regular hours, and—" he smiled. "I'll reopen the daycare in the building. Lily can stay there for free while you work." Emma stared at him, speechless. Her lips trembled, eyes filling before she could stop them. I don't know what to say." "You don't have to do this." Daniel shook his head. "I'm not doing this out of pity. I'm doing it because you deserve it. You're strong, honest, and you reminded me that kindness still exists." She nodded, tears rolling freely now. "Thank you. Truly." He smiled softly. "I just want to see you smile like you did that night." From that day forward, Emma's life changed completely. She embraced her new role with quiet pride, managing teams, solving problems, earning respect. Her co-workers began calling her Miss Emma, the woman who led with both strength and compassion. And Lily thrived. Every day at the reopened daycare, she painted, laughed, and made new friends. Each afternoon, when Emma came to pick her up, Daniel was often already there, sitting cross-legged on the floor, surrounded by children, laughing. The coldness that once lived in his eyes had melted away, replaced by something pure and human. Joy. 6 months had passed since that fateful Christmas Eve. Emma and Lily's lives had completely changed. The small apartment now echoed with laughter instead of worry. Each morning, Lily skipped to daycare with her pink backpack, and Emma walked into the building through the main entrance, head held high. Daniel, too, was different. The coldness once in his eyes had melted into something gentle. One Thursday evening, his voice came through the phone, calm but warm. "Emma, are you free Friday night?" "I think so. Why?" "Nothing serious," he said. "I just want to take you and Lily out for pizza. Let's call it a thank you dinner." Emma chuckled softly. "If Lily hears the word pizza, there's no way I can say no." "Then it's a date," he teased lightly. Friday night, they met at a cozy little pizza place tucked in a quiet street. No luxury, no pretense, just warmth and soft music. Daniel arrived early, dressed simply. When Emma and Lily walked in, something in the air seemed to brighten. Lily sat between them, happily chatting about her day. "I painted flowers today at school. I made one for you and for Mr. Daniel." Daniel smiled. "Then I'll hang it in my office. Deal?" "Really?" "Really, but you have to finish your pizza first." Her giggles filled the room. Emma watched the two of them, her heart softening. He wasn't the stern CEO anymore. He was just a man rediscovering joy. When Lily ran off to pick an ice cream flavor, Daniel turned to Emma, his voice lowered. "Emma, there's something I've wanted to say. You and Lily, you gave me my life back. Before you came along, I was only surviving, not living. But now, when I see you two, I remember what happiness feels like." Emma looked up, eyes shimmering under the soft light. "I should be the one thanking you. You believed in me, gave me a second chance, and gave Lily a childhood she deserves. I don't know when it happened, but I think I've grown to care about you more than I expected." Their eyes met, and for a moment, words were unnecessary. Then Lily came bouncing back, chocolate ice cream smeared on her cheeks. "Mom! Mr. Daniel, are you going to be my dad now?" Emma froze, cheeks turning crimson. Daniel blinked, then burst out laughing. "You don't waste time, do you, Lily?" She shrugged innocently. "You two smile at each other like people do in movies." Emma covered her face, laughing through embarrassment, and Daniel reached out, gently placing his hand over hers. "I don't know what the future holds," he said softly, "but if I can, I want to be worthy of both of you." The three of them laughed together, a sound pure and full of light, and in that small pizzeria, under the warm glow of Christmas lights still hanging from the ceiling, something beautiful had finally bloomed. A family, born from loss, rebuilt with love. Monday morning began like any other, until the world fell apart. Emma arrived at the office to a wave of murmurs and uneasy glances. People crowded around the TV in the break room, faces pale, anxious. On screen, a news ticker flashed. Brooks Technologies under financial investigation. Partner companies accused of fraud. Assets frozen. Emma's heart stopped. Then Daniel appeared, his image cold and exhausted, eyes hollow. The reporter continued. CEO Daniel Brooks faces legal responsibility as primary shareholder. All personal accounts have been frozen. The company is on the verge of collapse. Her phone trembled in her hand as she called him. 1 ring, 2, then the mechanical voice. "The number you've dialed is unavailable." She called again and again, but there was no answer. The rest of the day passed in a haze. Emma worked mechanically, her thoughts only on him. That night, she brought Lily home early, sat by the window as the city lights flickered in the distance, whispering into the silence. "Where are you, Daniel?" At 10 o'clock in the evening, the doorbell rang. Emma's heart leapt. When she opened the door, Daniel stood there. No suit, no polish, just a wrinkled shirt, unshaven face, and red, sleepless eyes. He looked like a man who had aged 10 years overnight. "Daniel?" He stepped inside, collapsed onto the couch, and buried his face in his hands. "It's over, Emma. I've lost everything." She sat beside him. "Tell me what happened." "My partners, they'd been laundering money for years under the company's name. I had no idea. But legally, I'm responsible. The company's gone. The house, the cars, the accounts, everything's frozen." He gave a bitter laugh. "I don't even have enough to buy dinner." Emma took his hand, squeezing tightly. "We'll get through this. You're not alone." He shook his head, tears breaking free. "I can't drag you and Lily down with me. You deserve better. I need to leave." As he stood, Emma rose too, and wrapped her arms around him from behind, her voice trembling against his back. "I love you, Daniel, not because of what you had, because of who you are. You gave me hope when I had nothing. You showed me kindness when the world turned cold. If you lose everything, I'll still be here." He turned slowly, eyes glistening, and saw the truth in hers, unwavering, raw, real. He let out a shaky breath, then pulled her into his arms. They clung to each other tightly, tears mingling in the dim light. Outside, the city still sparkled with distant lights, unaware. But inside that small apartment, 2 hearts held on to the only thing that mattered. Love, fragile yet unbreakable, standing firm against the storm. After the financial storm, Daniel's company officially shut down. Hundreds of employees were laid off. The once bustling offices now stood silent, their glass walls covered with "For Lease" signs. Emma stood in the empty lobby one last time, the place that had once changed her life, now nothing but a memory. Daniel had lost everything: his house, his cars, his savings, his reputation. The media branded him a failure, though he was as much a victim as anyone. With nothing left but a small suitcase, he went to Emma's modest apartment on the outskirts of the city. "I'll just stay here for a few days," he murmured, avoiding her eyes. Emma smiled softly. "You can stay as long as you need. We're family now, remember?" The apartment had only 1 bedroom, so Daniel slept on the old sofa in the living room, its fabric frayed, its springs uneven. At first, he lay awake for hours, staring at the ceiling, shame and disbelief swirling inside him. He had once owned skyscrapers, now he didn't even own a bed. But as days passed, he began to notice small things. The smell of Emma's morning coffee, Lily's giggles echoing as she colored by the table, the warmth that filled the air. Slowly, he realized something profound. This was real life. Not the sterile dinners alone in a mansion, not the hollow noise of success, but laughter, chaos, and love. Emma returned to working as a cleaner at a local elementary school. Every morning she rode her old bicycle, hair tied back, smile gentle, despite the exhaustion. Daniel stayed home, fixing things, cooking simple meals, helping Lily with her homework. The man who once signed million-dollar contracts now found pride in tightening screws and mending broken wires. One afternoon, their elderly neighbor, Mrs. Rosa, knocked on the door. "Daniel, you know computers, right? My grandson's laptop won't turn on. Think you could take a look?" He smiled. "Sure, let me try." That was how it began, fixing one laptop, then another. Word spread quickly through the neighborhood. Soon people started paying him. He set up a little workstation in the corner of the living room with a hand-painted sign, "Computer repairs. Honest work, fair price." Life was still hard, but laughter filled every evening. Emma worked tirelessly. Daniel rebuilt piece by piece, and Lily covered their walls with her colorful drawings. They didn't have much, but they had peace and love. One quiet night, as Emma folded laundry, Lily curled up beside Daniel with her teddy bear. "Mr. Daniel," she said softly, "are you really going to be my dad?" He froze, heart swelling. "Do you want me to be, Lily?" She nodded firmly. "Yes, because you make Mom smile again." His voice trembled. "Then I promise, from today, I'm your dad." Lily squealed and hugged him tight. "I have a dad." 6 months later, on a crisp winter afternoon, the three of them walked through the park where snow dusted the trees. Lily played nearby while Emma and Daniel sat on a bench, wrapped in quiet contentment. He reached for her hand, eyes tender. "Emma," he began, his voice low, "I don't have money, a house, or anything grand to offer. All I have is my heart, honest and full of love. Will that be enough?" He pulled a small box from his pocket. Inside were 2 simple silver rings. Emma gasped, tears welling. She nodded, smiling through them. "Yes, 1,000 times, yes." Daniel slipped the ring onto her finger, and as snowflakes began to fall, Lily ran toward them, arms wide. "I have a dad. Mom has a husband. We're a real family now." They laughed through tears, wrapped in each other's arms. Around them, the city faded away. Only warmth, only love remained. No wealth, no grandeur. Just 3 souls who had lost everything but found what mattered most. A love built from ashes, strong enough to last forever. That winter, snow blanketed the rooftops of their small neighborhood. Inside the old stone church, candles flickered, casting a golden glow over familiar faces. It wasn't a grand wedding, no fancy gowns, no orchestra, just a quiet ceremony filled with warmth and truth. Emma wore a simple white dress borrowed from a neighbor, her hands trembling as she took Daniel's. Beside them, little Lily held a bouquet of wildflowers, smiling brighter than the candles around her. When the priest asked for their vows, Daniel looked into Emma's eyes, voice breaking with emotion. "I once had everything, and lost it all, but losing everything taught me what true happiness is. Wealth isn't money. It's having someone to love, someone to come home to. And you, Emma, you're my home." Emma's tears glistened as she smiled. "And I promise to love you, not for what you own, but for who you are. The man who taught me that joy lives not in riches, but in hearts that share and forgive." As church bells rang, Lily ran to embrace them, laughter mingling with the echo of hymns. Outside, snow fell softly, and within those stone walls, a family was finally born, forged from loss, from pain, and from love. 10 years later, life looked different, but felt full. Daniel wasn't a millionaire, but a partner in a small tech firm, steady, fulfilled. Emma had her own cleaning business, employing women who once stood where she had been, giving them a chance to begin again. Lily, now 16, was bright, kind, and dreamed of becoming a teacher to help children who have nothing but hope. On Christmas Eve, the family gathered around their tree. Daniel lifted the star to the top, Emma placed small gifts beneath, and Lily giggled beside them. The lights shimmered across their faces, peaceful, content, complete. Emma leaned her head on his shoulder. "Do you remember?" she whispered. 10 years ago tonight, you met us for the first time." Daniel smiled, squeezing her hand. "I remember. That was the night my miracle found me." Lily wrapped her arms around them both. "And it found me too." Under the soft glow of Christmas lights, they knew the truth. Miracles aren't made of money or luck. The greatest miracle is love, the kind that builds a family, heals the broken, and shines even in the darkest winters.